Hey guys, quick and dirty, no long intro. Some have asked me about my color workflow or photo editing workflow since I've picked up this hobby. Quick disclaimer, I am not a pro. I've been doing this as a hobby for a couple of months now. This is just a beginner taking you through his workflow and showing how I edit my photos. Do whatever you want with this information. I'm sure there are better ways to do this or the correct ways to do this. This is just how I work and how I like to edit my images. So this is the photo I edited a couple of weeks ago, or maybe like a month ago or so, and I'll try to recreate this look. I probably won't do one-to-one. My taste and my editing style has evolved a bit, I guess. This is the edited one and this is the original. So the first thing I like to do is check my color temperature. I like to edit my images to be on the warmer side, so I'm just going to add some warmth into this image, and I like to experiment, go left, right, and check how the image looks. As I said, I like to have it warm, so I'm going to place this right here at 12, and I like to add in some greens just because I like that old vintage film look, and it's me in the photo community that the images are extremely green, so I'm going to feed that meme as well and leave it at -6. By the way, your editing software may be different. You may use Lightroom, but the sliders are almost in any software, they're the same. All right, then I'm going to go into the basic settings. This is where I like to clean up my image before I start applying a look, except for the white balance. I guess you can use the white balance to properly balance the image and then add in color and warmth through different ways, but I just do it right away. Then I like to clean up my image with the basic slider, so I'm going to pull down my highlights a bit just because they're really blown out in this, and we're going to recover a lot of information, especially like in the sky and all these people. Then I will pick up my shadows a bit, and I'm going to add in some contrast later, but I want to bring back some of the texture, especially like right around here in her pants, just because I want to see. That's why I'm raising the shadows a bit. Add some contrast back in. Not a lot. Most of the contrast I'll do through the curves. Black point I'll not touch for this one, and I like to add some texture and clarity to my images usually. Basically, it's like sharpening without being aggressive and introducing these ugly artifacts. I always do around like 10 or 12. I just try to check what looks good, and the same for clarity. Right around here is probably good. Okay, next up I'm going to add in some saturation. I usually like to add some global saturation and then a bit of vibrance. Saturation and vibrance work a bit differently. So when I remove the saturation, I'm getting some weird bug here, by the way. This should be, as you see, like when I zoom in, this is correct, like it's black and white. But when I zoom out, it's somehow I don't know, getting weird artifacts. Anyways, so this becomes black and white. It's basically like a global gain on color or something, you could say. With vibrance, it works a bit differently because it will only touch the colors that are not as present in the image, you could say. So you see like the blues, like the aggressive blues and reds and the oranges, they are not affected by any change I make to the vibrance. Only the colors that are like muffled, I guess, are affected. This is why I'm going to add in a bit more vibrance than I add saturation. And I like my images colorful and warm. I just edit the way I like them. Next, I'm going to touch these reds here a bit. You see, you can play around and change the hue of these reds, and I just want them to be a bit more pinkish, like not a lot, just a tad. This has to do with the overall look I'm going for, and what you will see. So just a tad, like minus 3% towards pink. I'm going to add here like a bit of saturation, not a lot. I'll just like here 3%, and I'm going to pull down the brightness a bit, and it gives you that nice almost like wine reddish color here. And then I'll touch the blues a bit, and I will drag them towards a bit of teal, like 8% is fine. I'm going to saturate this a bit more even, just because I want to add in some nice details with the blues here. Now lighten this up to check how it looks and darken it. I'm going to pick this up like by 5% maybe, so it's a bit more visible. Okay, so the next thing that I usually do is introduce the filmic look, I guess, or like the typical teal and orange look that everyone uses. There are two ways to do this. So you can use the color balance, and I usually also use these three wheels for the highlights, midtones, and shadows. And then you can, you know, like add in some orange in the highlights. I like to be aggressive here. And then I'm going to add in some teal in the shadows, just so you see the difference again. See, like some teal, maybe a bit more towards blue, like this. This is one way. I'm going to deactivate this, and I'm going to show you another way. Basically, with your curves, you can go into the color curves, and instead of pushing in more color, you will just remove color from the tones that you want to remove it from. So basically we want our shadows to be cool, right? So what we need to do is we want to remove the red, and I'm going to place 3 dots here at 3 points. And when I remove red from the shadows, you immediately see that we are getting the teal look. Maybe I'll remove even a bit more. Like, this is quite a drastic change, so this happens really fast, as you see. And we want to add some red into the highlights. So see, it's getting like really reddish, and we're going to fix this also. So next we are going into green. So usually what happens when you push red in the highlights, you don't want red, actually you want orange. So to get it to orange, you will need to push in some green. When you put red and green on an equal basis, it becomes yellow. And we're going to add in just a bit green to get the orange look. Okay, so we are going to place our 3 points here and just push in a bit of green into the highlights, just a bit, and you can see the red curve underneath there. And I'm really trying to somewhat nail this, but it's hard, but I think that's fine. Let me check. Let me deactivate. We don't need this levels thing. Yeah, okay, I like this. Exactly, so this is the other way. Now, I can see how someone might say, okay, but that was like way too complicated and way too much work. The color wheels were just like one adjustment, and you're totally right. The curves just give you a bit more control where you want the adjustments to happen, and with the color balance wheels, it's more of a range that gets affected. All right, so for this one, I think I'm going to keep the curves. I like this adjustment a bit more. It's a bit more aggressive, but I really like the look of this. Okay, next thing, we will adjust the luminance. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull down the global highlights a bit, just because I don't want any really harsh highlights. I also going to pick up the shadows a bit, just a tad. Now I'm going to place our 3 points again for the shadows, midtones, and highlights, and I'm going to push this towards the center a bit to introduce some contrast and pull it down a bit. I like how this looks. You can see like we're clipping some things, and we will make another adjustment to this image, and then we're going to save this. Well, especially the highlights, like the highlights clipping, we will save the highlights. Yeah, so we will bring down the exposure of the background around the subject quite a bit in just a second. So we'll recover some of the highlights and avoid the clipping here. For me, for this image, for this look, it's okay if I clip some of the blacks. I try not to as good as I can, but sometimes just not possible if I'm going for a certain look. And like right here, this is like really dark. So I'm not going to touch the highlights. I just tried, but it's already like they're really bright and aggressive. So what I'm going to do is pull this down a bit and pull this down a bit just to soften up those highlights a bit more, I think. And then I'm going to bring the midtones towards the right and up a bit. Okay, so this is before the curves and this is after the curves. We could also bring up the blacks a bit, and that way we are recovering some of the clipped shadows. So like this is fine for me. What I usually like to do is add a vignette. For this image, it's not even going to be very subtle. So I usually go like 3 or 5%, maybe 7, but for this image I'm going to go with, I'll go with 10. I will not add grain to this image. I like the clean look, and there's quite a lot of texture and there are a lot of things happening, so the grain will just distract. I want a bit more focus on the subject, so I'm going to add a mask and I'm going to select subject. And as you see, our subject has been selected, but we are also having some unwanted selection here, so we will remove that by adding a subtraction mask and a brush. And then I'll just remove this. We can clean this up a bit. So now we clean up our subject mask, and what we are going to do is, I don't want to do too much to her. We're just going to add a bit more contrast, I think. And actually this is wrong because I want to be on the subject, not on the brush. So the subject group now has 2 masks. We're going to select the subject group, and then I'm going to add in some contrast. Oops, this is the overlay for the mask. So we're adding some contrast. I'll reset this, and this tells me that there has been no effect applied, and when I up the contrast or do anything, it will overlay. So I'm just going to add some contrast because I want a bit more pop. Next thing, I'm going to push this orange a bit more towards red to give it a more punchy orange. I'm going to increase the saturation quite a bit, by 15 probably, and I'll up the brightness by 10%. I will fix her hair because I think there's too much green in there, and I'll drag it towards yellow. Also just really subtle adjustment, like 2% maybe. I'll try a bit more to check, but I think 5% looks fine for me. And then we're going to add some saturation there, like 5%, make it a bit darker. Actually, I'll brighten it just a bit by 2%, and I think that's pretty much it for her. I'll pull down the highlights on her a bit because this is quite harsh. So I'm going to pull the highlights here to like 35, maybe 40 even. And that's pretty much it for the subject. I'm not going to do more here. What I'm instead going to do is I'm gonna select the layer group here, duplicate and invert, and then I'll reset the adjustments because the adjustments have also been copied here. And next thing, I'm going to bring down the exposure quite a bit because I really want the subject to be popping in this image, and I also want to avoid these harsh highlights. Again, I'll bring down the highlights a bit more. Like, I don't want to be too dark but also not too bright. I think here it's pretty good. Oh, and also we can rename this. So this is the background. And now that I've brought down the exposure of the background a bit and clean up the highlights, I now want to bring back some of the color here because it's quite dark now. So what I'm going to do is go back to the raw layer, which basically affects our whole image, and I'm going to touch this red again and I'm going to bring up the brightness again. And testing this out here. I mean, this looks cool because it's punchy, but at the same time it's like horrible because it just overshadows everything. So I want to be really subtle here, add in a fitting amount of red so it's nice, somewhat poppy but not too aggressive. And I'll bring this back up to -3 maybe. I think this -2, -3 is good. So basically before we had -12 and now we have -3. See, really subtle adjustment, nice, and the red pop a bit more here. The shadows on this train on the left, or the highlights, not shadows, sorry. The highlights have quite a bit of orange in them, and I'm going to push this towards red, and dragging this orange is also going to affect our subject, but that's okay in this case. We can also fix it in the subject mask again, but I don't think it's that bad, to be honest. Like, it's also going to be like only a slight adjustment, like by -2% towards red. Maybe bump up the saturation like a bit, like only a bit, like 2%, and then we are going to bring down the brightness at the same time, -3. So like, these are small adjustments, but they make the whole image cohesive, and all these small adjustments add up. And again, like, I'm not a pro, this is just personal taste. I still think the image is a bit crunchy in this case. Okay, so we're not going to do anything more to this image. I think the image looks fine. I think we're close to the look that we had before. We are going to check this. As I said, it's still a bit crunchy and it still has a lot of highlights, but I think it just has these overexposed parts. It's hard for me without like doing a ton of masking and I don't know what to fix this now, and I want to keep this as short as possible. Actually, like, this has gotten out of hand, but what I would do is put in a mask here and mask out the sky so it's not affected by this change, and maybe I'll bring down the highlights a bit just so you don't have these like aggressive white spots. But I think as of now this image looks fine. We're going to check the other image. So this is the one we edited now, and this is the one I edited before. I think we are quite close. I think the image we did now is like a lot better. Here the subject is way brighter and the shadows are bluer. Here we went for a more of a teal look. And I think overall the edit has gotten better. It's moodier, you could say, I guess. Looks a bit more stylized. Yeah, I like the new edit a lot more. If you look at the histogram now here, we saved the highlights here. We are still clipping some shadows here, but that's okay. For the look, it's fine. So anyways, this has gotten out of hand, to be honest. I hope I can cut this down in post. Thank you for watching. This is not a tutorial channel, to be honest. So don't expect too much tutorials from me. This is just a personal favor to my friends that asked me. So see you around.